I'm Helen. I've always enjoyed 4th of July celebration every year. But there was only one time that was too creepy for my taste. Lucky though for my fiance and some of his friends were able to prevent it from going even more crazy as it were. Me and my fiance, at the time when this all happened, I was 21 and my fiance Ray was 22. We were invited to his friend Marvin's 4th of July party, and he was holding a party at his backyard of his house. At the time, we were just having a good time. We interacted with everyone, but when I was interacting with one particular guy at the party, his name was Kenny. He was a guy and a co-worker to Marvin. At first, he was very friendly to me, and I had no problem talking with him. I mean, I'm very sociable, a very outgoing person. But later in the party, I could see that he was getting a bit drunker and drunker by the beers that was served. When the fireworks was going off, I was alone for a moment when Ray and Marvin went inside to get some more drinks and snacks. When they were gone, Kenny walked up to me and started flirting with me. I could see right away that he was so drunk that he couldn't even stand straight. I felt very uncomfortable right away, and he started to flirt with me some more. And I know that fact, drunk people can be very unpredictable. But I told him that I already had a fiance. But Kenny laughed and said that he could be a way better man than that weakly guy. And I felt even more uncomfortable, but also angry. How could he insult my fiance without even knowing him well enough for that? So I tried to walk away, but when he suddenly grabbed my arm, and I can clearly see that he was so red in his face, not because of he was drunk, but of his anger. He told me not to leave, and that I am his girlfriend now, and we were leaving. I screamed so loud, and at the right moment, both Ray and Marvin came out of the house and saw it. Both ran up to him, and Kenny said that I wanted it, and that we were leaving, and Ray could see and even tell it was an absolute lie. Marvin and two other of Ray's friends showed up, told him to leave right away, and he started to argue. But since it was Marvin's house, he couldn't do much about it and finally left. Even though I was still a bit shaking and a bit uncomfortable the rest of the party, but it went normal. But it wasn't until a few days later when Marvin called Ray and told him something. To my biggest shock, that Kenny was fired from his work. Reason? Well, he showed up absolutely wasted. He was almost the same wasted when he was at the party. I wouldn't be surprised. But Kenny, let us never meet ever again. Thank you. Hi, I'm Jason. I have always very much looking forward to 4th of July every year. It's one of the best holidays other than from Christmas, of course. Even when I was a kid, to watch the night sky being filled with the bright colors of the fireworks going off, it was one of the best times. Though there was only one particular time of one particular year at that it started really friendly and happy, but it went sour quite fast actually, towards the end. You may understand why. At the time, I was 22 years old, and I had my fiancée, now wife, Sarah, same age as me. We had been invited by my parents to celebrate this holiday, and at first we were just having dinner, and it was just a good time. We would even play some games. I mean, of course, we play some music, but not loud enough to bother the neighbors. But when the fireworks went off, suddenly our next door neighbor came out of the house. I could tell something was off, and he just told us to be quiet. I tried to talk to him calmly, but in fact, it somehow made him even angrier. He just told us to be quiet, and he was trying to get some sleep. But I could tell that he was drunk. I just noticed that, not because of that I couldn't smell the beer or the alcohol, but it's just clear signs that he was stumbling, walking. That when he started walking, that he could walk straight and all that. Though my dad, he came up and told Mr. Peters, our next door neighbor, to back off, but that made things even worse. Mr. Peters started fighting with my dad. And even though my dad was a skilled fighter back when he was in high school, I mean, he was in a wrestler team and did some martial art, like some basic training. And it just, even though my dad is around the same age as Mr. Peters, but likely though my dad was more stronger and not even drunk, and someone called for the cops. And Mr. Peters was, of course, arrested and spent the night in jail. The party went well after that, but a couple of weeks later, which I was informed by my mom that Mr. Peters had moved out from his house and the peace had once again restored to the neighborhood. I was really surprised, but she didn't know exactly why though, but presumably that he had enough of living there, so at least the neighborhood would be more peaceful from that day on. And it was, because we have no other further problems with any of the neighbors during a particular holiday or any other time either. So, to Mr. Peters, I hope you have a better place where you live now, and perhaps you can get some more peace from any supposed bothering neighbors. Thank you, and let us never meet ever again. Hello, I'm Martha. I have a story that involves the 4th of July celebration that me and my boyfriend Leo was invited to by his parents. His family was such a lovely family, very kind, very supportive. We were invited, and in the beginning of the party, it was just a great time. But it eventually turned sour. Eventually, you may understand why. At the time, I was 25. Leo was 24. We was invited, and his family had invited a few friends and neighbors to celebrate the holiday with them. And we were just having a good time. I interacted with some of his friends, some neighbors, just basically have a good time. Since there were, I don't remember exactly how many people, but it was about more than 20 people. So, rather from having just our average dinner, so Leo's dad had decided to make it as a barbecue, which was a much better idea. So, during this party, when we all interacted, this happened around after we have our dinner. A man who was a neighbor to Leo's family, his name was Mr. Carter, and he was in his mid-40s, a single man, and I interacted with him. He seems to be friendly, but slowly changed his behavior. He started to be more flirtatious and asked if I wanted to leave Leo and to be with an older man who had more experience in dating. Of course, I felt very uncomfortable right away. But I told him right away no. And then after that, I left. But throughout the party, this was just before the fireworks was going off, I could tell that Mr. Carter was looking at me the whole time while drinking. It wasn't just until the fireworks to start Leo's dad actually have some his own fireworks to fire off, just to mention it. And then Mr. Carter walked up to me. Of course, he was so drunk I could tell. I could even smell the alcohol of his breath. He asked me if I wanted to go to his place to watch the fireworks and have dinner with him. I had enough, so I told him firmly to leave me alone, and I have no intention to ever even leave Leo, who was so kind, so generous, and very much lovely to me. But for some odd reason, Mr. Carter could not take the hint. In fact, he tried again and again to ask me, but I rejected him each time. But it didn't work. It only made him angrier and angrier. I could not believe it. He got so angry that he didn't get all what he wanted. So, I wanted him to leave. But luckily though, to me, Leo showed up and he knew what was going on. He told Mr. Carter to leave now or he will have him thrown out from his parents' property. Carter finally backed off and left. Still, the party went well, though I was a bit worried that Mr. Carter would come back to the party, but he didn't. And to a side note, that every time when I went with Leo back to his parents' house for dinner or just a visit, Mr. Carter never bothered me anymore. And I can just be happy for that. I mean, Mr. Carter, it seems at first to be very friendly, but quickly changed to be so flirtatious and tried to flirt with someone else, special significant partner. That's creepy. And also a bit not okay. So, I'm just saying, I'm glad that Mr. Carter never even tried to approach me ever again. But just in case, Mr. Carter, let us never meet ever again.